And I think no matter what happens for Misfits, this has been such an exceptional tournament for them. So much promise coming out of this team. In 1 year, they have made the growth from challenger scene to second place in Europe. Now, challenging TSM here in a tiebreaker to go to quarterfinals with 5 players who have never been to Worlds, and I just think that's exceptional.
Well, the draft has started and already TSM have made a minor change. Callista has missed her spot in the first ban slot, but she's back in on the second. But Jana Lulu being banned early tips hands very heavily for this early stage of the draft.
You have to think that Misfits probably don't want to give over Rakan again to Biofrost, who has been very, very effective on it. So the question does TSM ban it away, or are they happy to actually play into that, perhaps give it as a first pick? There's a lot of options, and kind of the thought process here has to really be looked at a couple steps ahead.
I am curious to see where Ignar wants to go for Misfits as well. Rakan is definitely something that should be banned from TSM. Wasn't sure if they were going to throw the gauntlet and say try your best. I feel like Rakan with Lulu Jana gone just gives too much to a team.
Well, we'll see if Misfits change it up again and stick with something like the Blitzcrank Alder Thresh and kind of buck the trend of Ardent Sensor, at least for this game.
And that's a really interesting point because, if you're banning away a lot of these Ardent Sensor supports, Misfits has already shown that they are comfortable to play around this style, and they are perhaps trying to preempt what TSM was maybe going to do. Taking away the Taric, it is an Ardent Sensor support. It's something that Biofrost is comfortable playing. And now, for them, do you go back to something like the Nami, where they did not have success against Misfits in their first game? Do you go for something like the Karma? Or is Biofrost perhaps even pushed off an Ardent Sensor support altogether?
Yeah, it could force a weird support for TSM. I was hoping that it wouldn't be a Sejuani here as well, just quietly. Svenskeren could have picked Gragas, which is good into Taric, just, dispersing them all whenever Taric presses the ultimate. Not going to be the case here. They've changed it up, and very quickly.
The trust in Kog'Maw, though, here for TSM. That's their next pick.
We could be back into the Nami Kog'Maw once again. This is how Misfits actually beat TSM in game number 1 of their series. Many days ago, last week, they actually were able to defeat that, and famously Doublelift starting very kind of greedy play, with the not Warlord's Bloodlust. He goes for the Fervor, he goes for a Cull instead of something with a little bit more HP, a little bit more defensive stats, and they did get taken advantage of, and it was the Gragas of Maxlore that was going bot lane, that was ganking Doublelift, and they put them very far behind.
And I think probably the toughest part for TSM here with Xayah Gragas taken there for Misfits is that TSM, they need to know what their support is probably right now, because they're going to keep losing bans in Phase 2 if they don't take it.
Yeah, I certainly think they have to lock in their support now. I'm guessing it's Nami or the Karma. Karma is an option as an Ardent Sensor support, and they are going to not go to Nami. I think this makes some more sense. A, because you actually have a little bit more support with those shields. It is more protection. While I do think Nami is stronger in lane than the Karma helps to enable you in the team fights more than the Nami, and that's really where TSM struggled last time.
And it's still quite good as a pick into Taric. Getting the extra move speed whenever Taric tries to stun you may help in dodging that one out. So there is absolutely merit in the pick. I like Karma more than I do Nami, just for protecting the Kog'Maw, giving them a shield above all else. It's still a very awkward spot that TSM have placed themselves in.
And we have seen the Kog'Maw be extremely effective, but we have not seen the Kog'Maw be extremely effective without a Lulu or a Jana, right? And that is what TSM is trying to go down, because this pick is so powerful when it is really backed up by these ultra-powerful shields and ultra-powerful peeling of the Lulu and the Jana and Karma. While it does offer protection, it's nowhere on the level of those other 2 picks, so we're going to have to see Doublelift positioning very well, navigating these team fights very carefully, or you certainly can get taken out.
Well, having a major threat in the middle lane as well, so that Kog'Maw isn't just the focal point. It's not going to be a one-carry composition. Bjergsen, Syndra is there, but I would almost prefer something like a Corki to be that second extra threat that can be auto-attack based, can get something from the Ardent Sensor.
And I think that that's exactly the kind of pick that Bjergsen might be going for here. I think it fits well into the composition. But the issue with that is, if you go for the Corki, you're very heavily magic damage. And that is why they are going to be going for this Jace. But remember, TSM can still flex this top. It could be mid, it could be top. Misfits is going to have to select their draft without knowing which lane it will go in. And then TSM will be able to reactively do their last pick to try to get the most favorable possible matchup.
Yep, it's a pretty wild pick there for TSM, one we haven't seen from them in quite a while, but Misfits, I think they know to finish standard. Maokai was banned, so not available as a tank, but Cho'Gath is, and Hansama does lock in his Orianna, Old Faithful, back here in the mid lane for PoE.
And I just love to see a tank that has heavy engage in the top lane for Misfits, because I think that Taric, when utilizing offensively, when using the ult offensively, you can really force fights and you can get the maximum value out of it. If you don't have a lot of way to start fights, then the other team can kind of disengage when you pop the ultimate and it can become so much less effective. This could be actually Karma mid.
I was going to say, I just realized that if they really want to play make support for Bifrost, they can change it up.
I think this is just Biofrost having fun, though. I think it's more likely to see something like the Trundle, even perhaps, in the top lane going over, but it could be to Jace top, so it is actually going to be Jace top, Ryze mid, so they're going to have to try to really bully out this Cho'Gath in this 1v1 in the top side, and this is so much pressure put on Hansor, because if you cannot get massively ahead of the Cho'Gath, I feel that Jace pales in comparison to the teamfight effectiveness of the Cho.
And TSM wanted this. They banned Maokai and Cassiopeia, knowing Cho'Gath was the only real tank left available. They picked Jace, flexing it between lanes as well, and they baited Misfits into saying, you can have the Cho'Gath, we want to counter it, we want to beat you in lane. It will beat it in lane very early on. The question is, can Alphari still get to the team fight?
And the question is, can Maxlore turn that around, right? The jungle interference sometimes can really make a big difference, and we've seen TSM 0 first bloods in 6 games throughout the tournament. If Jace gets put behind against a Cho'Gath, if Cho'Gath is able to outpace the damage with early Ninja Tabbies, early Bramble Vest, even the 1v1 can become a struggle. And from there, Jace offers almost nothing. You must win your lane.
Well, coaches will shake hands with each other for the last time in this tournament, as Misfits and TSM are playing a very monumental tiebreaker. I mean, already day one just shook things up with Fnatic's Miracle Run, but as far as impact goes, I mean, 2 regions are really at stake here, both NA and EU. One of them will walk away disappointed, and is it Misfits, is it the world's rookies that push it through, or is it North America's veterans, the most dominant team that finally find themselves in an early game and push through to a win?
And trying to be the first North American team to get into the quarterfinals as well.
They broke the first curse, now they're gonna break the second. We'll see if they can get it done here, but oh boy. This is gonna be one for the ages. I think no matter what happens, this will be epic.
Certainly will, and this is a game that is going to be remembered by European and North American fans, regardless of the result, for so long. There's such a fierce rivalry between these 2 teams and between these 2 regions. Power of Evil touting himself as the kryptonite to TSM. You know, taking them down previously in the past on UOL. Again, beating them earlier in the group stage when they were not expected to win at all. And we have to remember, despite the earlier victory for TSM, it was Misfits with a massive early game advantage.
A little flare flashing here. Sven and Hornso just trying to get some vision in. Double lift to meet Hansama here behind Biofrost, although Ignar also in the area.
It's not bad, actually. The early aggression, both will get a recall off and they'll be okay. What we are looking at, though, through the early stages of this game, Hornso walks in, tries to find Maxlore at the blue buff, and that's the place we have to start this conversation off with. Maxlore will be on the opposite side of the rift, most likely getting a full leash towards the red buff, means that he'll be slightly ahead of Svenskeren on the opposite side of the map. But with the way TSM are currently posturing, I'm not sure if it's an early blue buff steal at level 1, or if he is going to go back to his red.
Yeah, and I'm thinking it's looking much more like that blue buff steal. We'll see what they decide to go for. I think, especially now that he's still here, it is going to try to be that invade for the blue buff steal, and they will try to make an advantage out of that. We'll have to see what the response is going to be, though, from Maxlore. This has been spotted out, so Maxlore can simply go from his red to TSM's blue and try to equalize through that, but jungle pathing does become more interesting in these kind of games. You have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to think on the fly.
And if you're TSM, here's the counterplay, right? Your bottom lane's a Karma Kog'Maw. It's going to push in at level 1. You immediately go towards the blue buff, try and place some vision. Maybe you push Maxlore away if he's going to rush single camp, but maybe you can just see him doing that and give Svenskeren extra time for even a gank on the opposite side of the rift.
This is also very interesting from Sven, because he's actually basically saying, Maxlore is going to go to my blue, so I will get more from your side of the jungle than you will from mine. And the fact that Maxlore now has gone to this side of the jungle with 2 camps down means if Svenskeren can be defensive in his own jungle, can pick up his own red and blue, then TSM have gotten an early game advantage from the jungle passive.
Yep, going to cover Haunter in top as well. Just smashes down the Scuttle Crab with Sejuani's E damage after the proc. And you can see Haunter trying to zone Alphari off the wave. This is a rough time for Cho.
It certainly is, and I'd also take a little bit of time to talk about the item and mastery choices from Doublelift in the bot lane. He received a lot of criticism for the fact that he started Cull, for the fact that he went Fervor instead of Warlords, this very aggressive style, very greedy style, many called it. He is Warlords, he is Relic Shields, this is more defensive. A Hunter going to be getting ganked here.
Hits, Maxwell here ready to go, going to try and power slam out of the way, but doesn't quite get enough distance, knocks Maxwell back in Haunter. I think at this rate he just knows he's dead. No, a late flash might save him, dodges the Rupture and gets out.
Good from Haunter to use his melee form first. Close distance, knock Maxlore away out of the targets as well. It was level 3 on the Gragas, opposed to 2 on the Cho'Gath. Uses that and holds the flash for as long as he possibly can.
Certainly patient play there from Haunter, but even just that helps to equalize the lane so much. This is not an impressive buy from Haunter. He comes back with a longsword. He did well to survive the matchup, but now he has to be in this situation where he's a bit scared. He's worried about repeat ganks, and again, you want to be smashing this lane. You don't want to be farming passively. You don't want to be worried about where the jungler is.
Well, benefit here is that it looks like Maxwell's about to get 3-buffed by Svenskeren, who did full clear his red side and is now onto this blue. Absolutely no contest available because Maxwell's not in the area, so Svenskeren has a huge lead in the early stages of the jungle.
Yeah, he certainly does, and this is a result of abstract pathing from Maxlore just that little bit, going towards top lane of all places. Not necessarily vertical jungling, it was more diagonal, trying to get a gank off. This puts Svenskeren with experience pretty far ahead.
Especially, I think that experience is very important because if you can get to that early level 6 on Sejuani, you know, people talk a lot about the power in the team fights of the Sejuani, and I think that it does outpace that of the Gragas, but Gragas is stronger in the early stages. So the fact that Svenskeren was not invaded, was not harassed, was not pushed off of his camps, does bode well for him having a better game here.
Well, you can see Bjergsen farming up in the mid lane, already gone back for the early tier. Power Reaver's also done a similar thing with the early lost chapter, so looks like things are going just fine so far.
The freeze really nice from Bjergsen though. The fact that he's actually able to hold those minions will mean he denies a few CS, a little bit of experience at least there in the mid lane from Power of Evil on that Orion.
Ooh, root there on Bifrost, nice from Hans Sama, but Poke coming back. Doublelift actually taking it back, so TSM just happy to push the lane in, get their CS lead for now, although it has been evened up by Hans Sama with that big wave. And then looks like Doublelift returning with a dagger and a pickaxe as Sven is camping the top lane.
Yeah, you can see he's actually trying to protect Haunter to allow him to push it in. Haunter's out of mana, so Svenskeren essentially needs to be here to prevent any sort of gank. He wants to be there in case the Gragas does show up. This is not really an aggressive move that they're trying to make.
All right, you two. Ignite going in. Bifrost going to last hit a couple minions. Doublelift still returns. Misfits though will take it back. Yeah, maybe TSM can see it though with the ward there, and Sven going to retake control of the left side Scuttle Crab.
And a fairly steady early game, barring the one gank that happens in the top lane. Svenskeren doesn't do anything crazy. He just helps Haunter get a recall whenever he's able to get a recall. That's surprisingly good from Alphari, but now Svenskeren's going to come back. And they won't expect the Sejuani to be here. He's expecting Haunter to go back to base.
Again, though, I don't really know if you can actually kill Alphari. He has his flash, is still low mana Jace. They are going to try to do something, and Bjergsen is coming up here as well.
Alphari hits 6, so this could be bad news. Realm Warp up for Power of Evil, but Sven doing a lot of damage to Alphari. It's actually Bjergsen, excuse me. He's on the rise, but not enough.
They do get a flash, though. Still a nice roam there from Bjergsen. The wave was pushed up, so he's not really losing anything. They reset the wave. They get a summoner. And I would say mission accomplished there for TSM.
Absolutely, and of course, Alphari hadn't shopped yet. So just being on a Doran's shield means he is susceptible to dying to any kind of gank. Bjergsen finds some free time to get up there as well. Doesn't help with his mid lane control, but he's going to be fine with timing to be able to go up there essentially for free.
Trade back by Doublelift actually. Someone getting aggressive though on the Xayah, makes sense. He pulls the feathers back for a bit of extra damage. BF sword there actually for Hans Sama, so certainly has the early win as far as flat AD.
Yeah, able to hold on a little bit longer in lane, get that preferential buy certainly will be helpful, but Doublelift is going to be rushing towards the rage play. He has the pickaxe, he has an early dagger, he's going to be looking for that timing, and when you do complete it, you are such a strong point, especially in comparison to Infinity Edge users who generally need a second item. And even the Xayah, while I think you're stronger on one item with the Essence Reaver than you are with the IE, you still really want that second item to get the most from it. So you're starting to get the CDR, you're getting the crit for the mana return, and that's where he's the strongest.
Yeah, the one big benefit, of course, being the Ardent Sensor to compensate for spike timings will still be relatively strong, but yes, definitely looking for more. As much crit as a man can find. Double lift on the other side will spike sooner, as you mentioned, but a lot of that I don't feel like relates to anything directly. TSM, their early games haven't been all that hot.
No, it's been very, very poor. You know, they are probably the worst early game team in the entire tournament so far. Their late game has been great, but you need to be able to get yourself there without being too far behind. And I would say that so far, you know, it is an early game gold lead, but when you're looking at the top side, for Alfari versus Haunter, he already has his Bramble Vest. He's rushing towards Tabbies. He's gotten past a lot of the super early game struggles that you're normally supposed to have because of the gank from Maxlore. And then you're asking yourself, well, did Svenskeren get enough with the experience advantage, with the triple buff, to really outweigh that? And for now, I'd say no.
Well, you can see at least Misfits do get the Ocean Drake as well, so kind of alleviating some of the gold lead that TSM have accrued, but a very close game. 8.5 minutes through, and no first blood has been given up by TSM just yet. They could get their first one of the tournament.
And they haven't got a first blood yet at Worlds. That's very tragic for TSM, but you're right. I mean, the slower start from Misfits, perhaps it is being nervous that this puts you into the quarterfinals. More patient play, more reserve play, but at the same time, Cho'Gath into Jace, you're expecting that to be slow from them. Orianna does not power spike in the early game. The Blitzcrank isn't there from them either. It's an Ardent Sensor user. You're expecting Misfits to start ramping up more around the 15-minute mark and try and stamp TSM down there.
Yeah, I really agree, and I think that Misfits are very happy with this early game because, while yes, there is the double lift on the Kog'Maw, great scaling on that. Ryze has strong scaling as well, so does Sejuani. The scaling is very strong here, too, for Misfits, and I would say the biggest advantage is that of the double tank composition, is that of this Cho'Gath versus the Jace.
Ooh, Sven actually going in onto Maxlore here. Alfari going to make it first, of course, but the stun is going to land. Good flash from Maxlore, and now Sven happy to take the summoner and leave.
Now, he doesn't know where Bjergsen is, I think, which is why there was a respect flash paid by Maxlore. Benefit of the doubt that Bjergsen was there. He wasn't. He was close, though.
And you always have to know that once you get hit by the passive there from Sejuani, the ultimate can follow that up. If Ryze comes in, then that's another route. That's such a big amount of CC, and NA Jace.
NA Jace has not been great. 1-5. Flame picked up a win this tournament on Immortals.
Yes, the one was a Korean.
NA Jace.
Well, we'll see if Monster can truly buck the trend.
Yeah.
Here on the Jace pick.
Important game here, right? And certainly not a successful pick for North America historically. Last year, Worlds famously, they really were failing with it in the top lane, although it was a very meta pick. North America never really was able to execute on the pick. They're sometimes able to get the lane advantages, but even with those, never really able to convert, never really able to find the snowball and close out a game.
Well, Ignar poking his head around to take the blast cone away. Continue that pressure in the bot lane.
And we are at a point where Power of Evil has got a single item spike as well. He's gone for the Morellos. Shout out to the Not Nash's Tooth build. So he's gone for the 20% CDR in a single item. Again, spiking a little bit sooner, lacking in health, but increasing in damage basically from what the build's going to provide from all of the spells. I like that. It gives an opportunity for the team to work around the middle lane pressure. The fact that he can successfully clear minion waves because he's also level 9 and start trying to make a play.
This is where it starts to kind of get hard for the Jace with all this early armor. Haunter is sitting there shooting the Cho'Gath, and he's taking a significant amount of damage himself, even though Alfari is not really hitting his abilities. You really start to whittle yourself down, and the amount of sustain on a Cho'Gath can get to the point where you struggle to push him out of the lane whatsoever.
Once again, a try, certainly, although Maxwell has roamed his way back up through the lane to try and get this first blood. Oh, Rupture lands. Haunter maybe knows what's up. There's the silence in. Can now flash away. Has to do it quickly. Great flash knock back onto Alfari, but Maxwell, he wants to dive. Ulti's going to push him to safety, and Haunter escapes again.
Haunter escapes again. Well done from him, but Maxlore's path thing has relieved so much pressure. It's actually a CS advantage for Cho'Gath, which is very, very nice. And we haven't seen Svenskeren really unleash the ultimate yet. He is level 8 on the Sejuani, but he's still just kind of farming it up, trying to get vision for his team, playing very passively, and you would like to see him get involved in some of these plays.
And it may not have proven successful with the gank, but I appreciate that he went for a lane gank when you saw the vision everywhere except the lane for TSM. So the one place he could have went for a gank, he chooses, and it was mostly successful in that the teleport was used as well as the flash. Alfari can hold on to his. Now that gives a window of opportunity.
Certainly does. And you have to give some credit as well to the fact that Sven's earlier topside visit did force the flash out of Gragas, because Maxlor had no flash for this gank, and if he did, maybe that's actually a dead Jace.
Maxwell sticking around for a little while longer, but good ward from TSM spots that lane gank attempt from Svenskeren, but his double is getting aggressive in the bot side. Stun not going to land. A hard summer going to get rooted up by Biofrost, forced to use the Featherstorm. Double Lift just walks out from under a hard summer though, in onto Biofrost, trying to chip him back away.
Lots of damage from both of these teams. Hansama gets the worst end of that trade, however. Ardent Sensor for the Karma means they're stronger, and they're trying to push that advantage.
Yeah, and they're trying to take this advantage, take it into the jungle here. Bjergsen roaming down. This could be the first major fight of the game.
Oh, red buff goes over to Maxon. Now
Early
Svenskeren's got to book it, pass his way around the ball, does not want to get shockwaved.
Yeah, Sven actually anticipating a very early smite coming out of Maxlor, so tried to preempt it. He tried to time it so that it would come down second, but it's Maxlor who gets the better of him there and takes away the red buff.
Yep, most Sejuanis will combo the auto attack when it's at 4 stacks with the smite, so he uses the auto attack and doesn't smite, or then tries to smite at the same time. So there's mini delay there. It was a bit awkward. Nothing that he wanted, unfortunately. Red buff just casually to Maxlor.
Yep, I will say though, for Bjergsen, this is a very strong point in the game. The initial completion of the Abyssal Mask against the 3 AP topside makes you very powerful. You can start playing a lot more aggressive. It's tough to get.
Maxwell going to knock him back. Alfari makes it in with a blast cone. Bjergsen here with the Realm Wall, maybe trying to join in. Good juke out of the rupture from Haunter. And Bjergsen in support.
Haunter really doing a good job absorbing this pressure, and he's actually building towards a Blade of the Rune King, it looks like, accepting that he cannot rush the armor penetration because the lane has not been as dominant as he would like. He's now going to have to go more for that 1v1 style, the percentage HP damage against this Shogath, and the lifesteal honestly did withstand all that return damage.
Yeah, it's defensive, it's split push build for Haunter. He's going up against the Cho'Gath, so it's a very apt build nonetheless. Just means that his pressure when he's grouping up to Siege will be significantly lessened.
It's also going to be really hard for him. They could actually be losing a lot of damage on this turret because TSM is on the bot side. Again, Maxlor up to the top side, playing around Alfari, going against the conventional wisdom in this meta of playing only to bot side, and so far so good with this red buff. They may actually be able to just knock down this turret straight up.
Looks like Haunter's just going to concede control, even Power of Evil roaming up, so going to just have to make a trade here.
It's a rushdown. We'll see if TSM can actually do this with their Unsensor, but not even close.
No, they're not going to win the trade, but TSM have the numbers advantage. They had the opportunity to keep Svenskeren down here, but with how fast Misfits got that turret down, I don't think they can push for anything further. They'll take the Drake, though. It's a slight edge, perhaps.
Yeah, and it's going to have to be one that pays off later, right? With that Mountain Dragon, you don't get any real combat stats. It's about, can you take an objective later with that? Can you rush down a Baron? Can you siege more effectively because of it? And to their credit, in the split push, if Jace is going to be building something like a Blade of the Rune, Black Cleaver split push style build, that will help him when he pushes up to those turrets. But definitely not the early game that Haunter wanted, although I will say Double Lift is at a really strong point.
It does also mean if they group up with Haunter around an objective like a Baron, they will take that down incredibly quickly as Bjergsen.
Yeah, he knows the shockwave's coming, flashes it. Dazzle also there from Ignar, so good for Bjergsen to get away. And again, such a surprisingly calm early game. Yes, Misfits especially are trying to be proactive, and now onto the Rift, I'm actually looking to make a good leap for an objective here. You can tell the teams just don't want to give away too much early and spend even behind. Knows it's there with the ward in the back.
Do TSM really want to make their stand here, though? Bjergsen is flashless, and Jace is on the other side of the map. They have moved up their Kog'Maw, and with that Rage Blade completed and the Ardent Sensor, Double is very, very strong, but certainly still susceptible to the engages of the Gragas, the Taric, and the Shogath.
I guess the decision does go both ways. Hansama, the rest of Misfits, they choose not to commit to the Rift Herald. And you mentioned how strong Kog'Maw is. Well, it might be an Essence Reaver for Hansama, just needs the Zeal perhaps to start optimizing more as Haunter.
Oh, good knockback again. Haunter already used the flash, has to try and maybe clear it away, but Feast is going to give Alfari first blood.
Level 12 Cho'Gath does an awful lot of damage. Power of Evil being able to roam, but Hansama, no, they're good. Just means the free first blood.
Yeah, they get the first blood. TSM looking to try to push up on the top side, but all this attention Haunter's way has really limited his effectiveness, and now they stop the base from Bjergsen, and they're actually looking to try to catch him out, get the Derek stun land.
Whoops out of the way. Good from Bjergsen there to just barely dodge the dazzle. But again, turret bot side goes down.
I guess Maxwell thought he was Season 1 Gragas in that case, was trying to one-hit Bjergsen. Doesn't work as planned. Means if Bjergsen doesn't have his ult, however, as they go back to the Herald.
Continued pressure perhaps. This might be an overstay. Power of Evil could be caught out. He is going to get stunned up by Sven, but no one's going to chase down now. Forcing the flash out of the Sejuani. Alfari does teleport in, and TSM, they're happy with that.
Yeah, they do lose the Rift Herald though. They get the teleport, and they're trying to pressure mid. Misfits wants the base, so we'll see if TSM can actually push up and get anything done here. Doesn't look like it though.
Power of Evil looks for Sven, finds a shockwave, but just a bit of poke damage there. TSM though, they've already pulled off the mid siege, so turret advantage will stay for Misfits.
There's a lot of emphasis from Power of Evil on using his shockwave just freely to do damage, not to secure the kills in any clutch moment. He knows that the fight had just ended and that there wasn't anything that was going to happen after. The wave was already clear. So he takes a crazy option and just throwing it out. Speaking of bottom lane, guys.
Haunter again. Alfari's looking to chase him down.
Bilgewater not bad. Rupture is just barely going to tag him. Team's coming down, but I don't think it's enough for TSM. Maxwell, flash body slam, just going to try and take him down. Alfari with the ult, he gets a second stack.
This plan for Misfits is really working out well. Haunter is going to have so much trouble finding any sort of effectiveness in this game where Cho'Gath can simply go to the team fights, can take over in that aspect and really be a threat onto everyone from TSM.
I mean, Haunter's a bunch of gold away from being relevant even in a split push right now. He's currently staring down Alfari, who has a bunch of armor, and now 2 kills with 2 feast stacks on top of that. He's not dying anytime soon in a 1v1.
Honestly, at this point, I don't think he's ever going to be under threat in the 1v1. I feel like with enough armor stacking and enough feast stacks, Alfari at the very least is going to be able to hold even, going to be able to wave clear. And Haunter really having a tough time through all this focus, unable to escape there. Not much he really could have done, but you have to wonder, is he getting frustrated, pushing up that far without the vision, not really knowing where the other team is?
Well, saw this already from TSM. Doublelift was very far behind in his early game, and the rest of his team was able to pick him back up. And Misfits are also a team that does well with a lead, and they've managed to build one in probably the most unlikely place.
Yeah, definitely a place that you don't want that lead to be if you're TSM on the flip side as well, though. Jace being potentially irrelevant in that side lane means he may have to start grouping, and then you're grouping against that Cho'Gath. It's the teleport game right now, though, if we're contrasting top laners, where Haunter has the slight edge, and it means there's a window of opportunity for TSM. Not a big opportunity by any means, but a chance to make a play.
And honestly, at this point, you're almost just hoping that Haunter can keep Alfari in a side lane. And if you can have a 4v4 team fight, I think that would be a better chance for TSM right now, because if you get into a full-on 5v5 with the Taric ultimate used offensively, with Shockwave to follow up any sort of initiations onto Doublelift, I really feel that they will struggle to actually punch through the front lines of the Gragas and of this Cho'Gath.
And the struggle's only increasing as well. TSM just lost another turret. Power of Evil's almost effectively solo pressure through the course of the laning phase does net them the outer turret there.
And the vision that Misfits have right now is around 2 different major objectives. They have vision at Baron, they have vision at the Drake. That's kind of absurd. There is nothing TSM can do on Summoner's Rift without phoning into Misfits saying, hey, by the way, we're going to the Baron pit.
We also have to remember, Misfits still have a Rift Herald available for the next minute or so they can look to actually pressure and try to crack one of these inner turrets. And I think, again, going back to the scene of the crime here, trying to focus Haunter, trying to set up a dive on him when they're so tanky, and then utilize that Rift Herald to knock down the bot tier 2.
Well, it's been summoned. So Rift Herald is going to get some damage done here. Alfari actually pushing Haunter off. I mean, at this point, Haunter, you can see Maxwell hitting that controller. He knows that the jungler is here. This team, again, very late to move over. Bifrost is available, but don't really think they can chase it down. TSM now finally trying to respond, but Misfits' vision that you pointed out earlier, Rusty, is making that almost impossible.
This is why you don't give Heralds to Hans Sama. You give him to Maxwell. He'll make the plays. He'll actually summon the Herald. They do get a tower with it, which is very important. It's one of the few inners that will be able to safely go down without any kind of fight, any kind of contesting, and at the same time, easy transition for another stack for Alfari.
Yeah, and he is going to be stacking up very, very quickly. Going to be such a threat. Already 7 stacks at 21 minutes here on the Cho'Gath, and a number of those are the non-minion stacks, which is so important because he can pick up at least 3 or so more just from minions, which is going to have a Cho'Gath sitting at 10 stacks, and that's such a massive threat in any team fight. So it's going to be a game where TSM has to have a fantastic performance out of Doublelift, I feel like. It really seems that Kog'Maw is the only character who's going to be able to put out enough damage to actually punch through these carries.
But is Doublelift set up to be the hero that TSM and North America need? He's got just the Karma protecting him. It's not a full shield, the Doublelift composition, and he's against the Cho'Gath that is that big. Shockwave, very relevant. I feel like those are the two things that might take him apart, but even his damage output against the Taric ultimate could be diffused.
Exactly, and the Gragas engage is another thing that you have to be very worried about. If Gragas' body slam flashing in onto Doublelift with the Taric ultimate coming down, with Cho'Gath flashing forward, can TSM absorb that type of engage and be able to fight back when they are with this Jace who's kind of stuck in this position where he can't really be super effective in the team fights, but also doesn't have side lane priority.
Well, I think at this point, like you said, TSM just kind of have to find either some picks or a 4v4 that favors them without Alfari coming in. Doublelift does have 2 items. Sven looking for Ignar. Good flash throw from the Taric. Going to keep him alive. And Hansama getting aggressive, but Doublelift going to turn back around. Featherstorm forced out. Haunter actually walking over. Didn't really want to hang out on the side lane, but Power of Evil looking for the Shockwave forces 2 flashes.
Really nice there from PoE. The flashes off both the solo laners there, and Misfits with another advantage. The 3rd straight time they're looking to try to get a fight here.
Sven gonna get stunned up. Max Law ready to buff him back into the team perhaps. Yep, does use it. Forces Doublelift away as well. That's Insta Sven getting out for the Taric ultimate. He's gonna move them forward. Sven's gonna almost get killed, but he somehow escapes Alfari's fist. Firefrost, maybe not so lucky. Gonna take the damage and have to be the sacrifice.
They'll take the 1 kill, but major health advantages for all of Misfits. There's no feast, but there is a smite if they want to look towards the Baron pit. They have the vision control already established. TSM with no support.
Yeah, without even the protection of the Karma for this Kog'Maw. Doublelift is going to have to play this so incredibly well. Misfits have started up this Baron. I don't feel like TSM can afford to give it up.
Pua did so much damage to Doublelift there. Here, Shock was probably dead. Ignar though, out the front lines without a fight for TSM. Getting engaged on Spitskaren. Forced to back away, but Haunter gets knocked up there. And Bjergsen just can't get out anywhere. Doublelift, little too far forward. Power of Evil takes him down. And now Haunter going to get ruptured on the other end of it. Following to the silence of Sven, trying to escape. But Power of Evil carrying his team to the double. And Hansama cleans up the 3rd.
That could be the end for TSM here in this game. They're getting outscaled. They're getting run over here by Misfits. Misfits right back to the Baron. It will be a free one for them. And Doublelift unable to use the flash to dodge either Shockwave or the root coming out of Hansama. And Misfits have full control over this game.
0 kills in this game for TSM. Hope is absolutely fleeting for the roster as Misfits are starting to run away with it. The Baron's big. They even get a feast stack for good measure on the Cho'Gath as if they needed anything extra. Power of Evil is putting in some serious work in these fights. Doublelift gets rooted in place by Hansama, I believe, which is a big part of this, why they're able to do relevant damage. Bjergsen is just so far away from his team. He's conceded the fight. They know it's over. Maybe they shouldn't have contested the Baron like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, pushed out of the fight there by the frontliners. So much damage coming in from the backline as well here of Power of Evil and Hansama. Misfits' 2nd seed in Europe, looking to take down TSM, looking to go to the quarterfinals on this game. But 2 games in a row, they have had massive leads, and they have thrown them. We'll see if they can actually hold on to this, or if TSM can scrape back in.
And last time Misfits had a lead and threw that one away, it was against a Kog'Maw, a very good late game scaling champion. Yes, the hope for NA is fleeting. The hope for TSM is starting to whittle away, but there is hope for any Kog'Maw composition.
And Power of Evil is ready to end this game by the looks of things. He went death cap for even finishing his Leandry's maximum impact at this stage of the game. And that inhibitor turret just melts. Sven gonna dive back in, try and look for something, but Tarakol's gonna turn that off. And there's Alfari looking for the stack, but Hansama grabs the kill.
I mean, this is looking so grim for TSM here. You have a split pusher who cannot win the 1v1. You're up against the Baron buff. Haunter cannot be in a side lane, and TSM very clearly cannot stand up in the 5v5 right now. The gold lead is getting enormous. The mid lane inhibitor has been cracked, and Misfits, it feels, are very close to winning this game.
Svenskeren just throws his body willingly at the enemy team and will be made pay for it. And suddenly he's going to be the reason 2 inhibitors go down so quickly as well, just by dying.
It just doesn't feel like they have the wave clear though, right? You're in a situation where you need to force some sort of fight. You need to do something on this Sejuani because Rise and Kog'Maw and Jace at this point are not putting forth the wave clear, are not putting forth the threat onto the front line. And here is the engage. Very clearly they're looking for it as a 5-man team, but really not much of a chance of this working. The Taric ultimate very easily comes down, and Misfits pick up an easy kill, multiple turrets, 2 inhibitors.
I mean, it's fine to say, okay, we're looking for it as well. I can understand the decision, and I'm okay with that. It's the choice to dash forwards, throw the ultimate, knowing that the only person you can hit is Maxlaw. Hitting Maxlaw, realizing it was a mistake, and starting to run away as if he didn't know before that it was a mistake.
Well, Misfits with that blitz with the Baron buff, able to take down 2 inhibs and push TSM all the way back, running out of room to play with on the Rift, and certainly running out of breath. 10,000 gold pretty much also up for Misfits, so they are 1 push away, likely this one, of sealing themselves a spot in the quarterfinals.
And they've played such a strong game here. Great game plan, attacking the Jace in the top lane. No advantage was able to be gained up there for TSM whatsoever. Maxlor rendered this Jace pick completely useless, and TSM have one last chance. They need a miracle fight here.
They're going for it very soon. There's the stun actually lands in onto Maxlaw. Damage not enough though. Taric ult burnt. Inhib turret does go down. Power of Evil threatening with the shockwave. Haunter, he's going to get himself stunned, but no follow-up CC there from Misfits.
And that's good for Misfits. They slow play the game. Inhibitors, dead mid and top mean minions start to crash, and now they look for it.
They have to fight for this inhibitor though. TSM cannot afford to give up a triple inhib with this disadvantage, and they're looking for it.
Oh,
Sven is
that
very
could be
low.
a beast. Sven forced to flush out of the way. Doublelift doing what he can. Warmonk will kick in eventually. Sven
that's
getting
it.
to reach it back. Winningo with a huge stun. Everybody flushes out of the shockwave though. And TSM, they have to go now. I think this is their only chance to try and hold this game.
Their engage is just so weak, though. I don't know how they go forwards. Misfits just play the game slow. Nexus being threatened by super minions right now. It should just be 3 inhibitors clean.
Can't grab it, and there's the initiation again from the rest of Misfits, now surging in towards the Nexus turret. There's already 1 dead. This looks like a game. Misfits are going to expose the Nexus. TSM, perhaps 1 last hurrah.
They have to do something now. It's the only chance. You will be just completely run down by the 6 super minions spawning at a time, but Misfits playing it too well, playing so patiently. Alfari with the double Ocean Dragon is regenerating back up, and I think it's all over but the crying for TSM.
Yeah. TSM holding on, all but defeated, and it feels like mental as well as here they go.
Here we go, Maxlaw is going to get something, but Bjergsen is getting taken down by Hans Summer. Root is good on to do, but Double actually still dealing decent damage. Flash beat, Power of Evil grabs on us. Hans Summer steals the kill onto Double if TSM down 2, looking to defend, but I don't think they can.
No, 40 seconds on Kog'Maw. Svenskeren has to base. The minions are crashing. They want to end it now.
I love it from Ignar, popping the ulti, ready to go and going to try and win themselves a fight. Haunter looks to assassinate Hans Summer, but he does just get it. Svenskeren able to get it. Oh, TSM actually may have thought they were barely out of this. I mean,
there's too many minions. They're crashing in. The Nexus is dying to all these super minions, and Misfits are going to do it.
They're going to rush the Nexus. These world's rookies, these upstarts with the Nexus open, these Misfits push themselves straight into the quarterfinals. And there it is.
An EU beats NA on the day. Not just once, though. TSM may have beaten them in the first game this time, but revenge is there for all of Europe, it seems.
Elation for Misfits, for Europe, and agony in defeat here for TSM. Again, out in group stages in Worlds 2017. Last year, same roster, high expectations, not able to get past groups. This year, the draw of a lifetime they felt. People talking about how strong TSM was and how weak this group would be. And the team, Misfits, that was expected to go 0-6 in this group, ends up being the team that knocks TSM out of the entire tournament.
I think living up to their name, Power of Evil with a big smile on his face, continuing to be the kryptonite for Bjergsen and TSM. And what an amazing story for Misfits. We've already joked Challenger of the Worlds was like pretty insane for a new team, but They push themselves at least one better to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, House Challenger to quarterfinals. That's so impressive for this team, and they do continue to improve. And you have to say, with the early game leads that they have been able to establish, if this team is able to improve some of their game closing, if they're able to improve their later stages of the game, they can really challenge some people in the quarterfinals.
They've shown some weaknesses, but they've definitely shown some strengths here on the world stage. TSM, unfortunately, their weakness was too glaring, too obvious, and meant